Amara Jackson sat behind the wheel of her sleek black SUV, the city skyline in the distance. Today was a big day, her first, as the new chief of police. The weight of it sat heavy on her shoulders, not from nerves, but from the knowledge that she was walking into a department with a history of problems, corruption, racial bias, a deep divide between the police and the people. But she wasn't here to play politics. She was here to fix it. A flicker in her rearview mirror caught her attention, flashing red and blue lights. Her brows furrowed. Seriously? She glanced at her speedometer, not speeding. No traffic violations. So why were they pulling her over? Amara sighed, already knowing the answer. She was a black woman, in a nice car, in a city where cops like the ones behind her didn't ask questions. They just assumed. Pulling over to the side of the road, she took a deep breath, keeping both hands on the wheel. Her badge and ID sat neatly in her glove compartment, but she knew better than to make any sudden moves. Let's see how this plays out. The two officers approached her vehicle, one on each side. She stole a glance at their name tags, Harris and Thompson names. She'd be dealing with sooner than they realized. Harris tapped on her window. License and registration. No greeting, no reason for the stop, just straight to demands. Amara rolled down the window, tilting her head. Mind telling me why I was pulled over? Thompson leaned in from the passenger side. Routine check. Amara gave them a slow nod. Routine check, huh? Harris's jaw clenched. He wasn't used to being questioned. License and registration. Now, she held back a smirk. If they were this cocky with random black drivers, she could only imagine how they treated people who didn't have a badge like hers. With deliberate slowness, she reached toward the glove compartment. I'm getting my ID. Don't get jumpy, Thompson scoffed. We don't get jumpy. Amara retrieved her credentials, holding them up. Good, because this is about to be real embarrassing for you. Amara's grip tightened around her ID as she eyed the two officers. Their body language screamed hostility, puffed up chests, squared shoulders, the kind of stance that said, "We're in charge here." She had seen this play out 100 times, just never from this angle. Harris's fingers hovered over his holster, and Amara immediately clocked the tension in his jaw. She wasn't a suspect, but in his eyes, she wasn't far from it. Keep your hands where I can see them, he snapped, his voice sharp, too eager. Amara let out a slow breath, keeping her movements measured. Unbelievable. I'm reaching for my ID, she said evenly, but her voice carried authority. Thompson leaned in, eyes narrowing. We don't know that. Amara fought back the urge to laugh. What else would I be reaching for? Harris didn't answer. Instead, he flicked his eyes toward the dashboard, scanning the interior like he was searching for a reason, any reason to escalate. Amara had seen this tactic before. They pull you over, claim it's a routine check, then make up some nonsense about acting suspicious to justify the stop. The problem for them? They had no idea who they were dealing with. Harris's stance didn't relax. Step out of the vehicle. Amara's patience thinned. Not until you tell me why I was pulled over. Thompson scoffed. You don't ask the questions, lady. She smiled now, slow and deliberate, because she had them exactly where she wanted. That's Chief Jackson to you. Confusion flickered across Harris's face, just for a second. But it was too late. The power dynamic had already shifted. Amara exhaled slowly, resisting the urge to shake her head. Here we go. Thompson crossed his arms, adopting a smug expression. Your vehicle matches the description of a stolen SUV. Amara arched an eyebrow. Oh yeah. What's the description? Thompson didn't blink. Black, luxury, tinted windows. Amara let out a short, humorless laugh. Wow, that's specific. She glanced around at the row of expensive cars lining the street. Half the SUVs in this neighborhood fit that description. Harris, eager to double down, took a step closer. We need to search the vehicle. Amara tilted her head. You need to, based on what evidence? Harris scoffed. I just told you. It matches the description. She met his stare, unblinking. That's a serious accusation. You sure about that? For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed Thompson's face, but Harris wasn't backing down. Look, Lady Chief Jackson, she corrected, voice steady. Harris faltered, just a bit. We're not here to play games. Amara gave him a long, measured look. Neither am I. But let's be clear. You're about to illegally search a vehicle that belongs to the Chief of Police. Still feeling good about your choices? The shift was instant. Thompson blinked. Harris's mouth parted slightly. Amara waited, arms crossed, watching the weight of their mistake settle. Amara narrowed her eyes. You don't have probable cause. I know my rights. Harris exhaled sharply, his patience thinning. Step out of the vehicle. Amara stayed put. On what grounds? Thompson crossed his arms, his smirk returning. Obstruction. She laughed an actual, amused laugh. Obstruction of what? Your ego? Harris's nostrils flared. Enough of this. He reached for the door handle. Amara locked it. Try again. Thompson's frustration boiled over. Step out of the car. Amara met his gaze, calm and unshaken. Not without a legitimate reason. Harris had enough. He yanked the door open, grabbed her arm, and tried to pull her out. Big mistake. Before he could fully register what was happening, Amara moved fast, twisting her wrist free. She shifted her weight, planting her feet firmly on the ground. In one swift motion, she had Harris's arm pinned against the car door, his face nearly colliding with the frame. Thompson's hand shot to his belt. Whoa, whoa. Amara didn't flinch. You're about to make another bad decision. Harris gritted his teeth, completely caught off guard. Let go of me. She released him, stepping back, giving them just enough space to think about their next move. Now, she said, smoothing out her sleeve. Are we done playing this game? Harris and Thompson stiffened as murmurs spread through the growing crowd. People pulled out their phones, cameras flashing. A woman in a red hoodie stepped closer, her phone held high. Yo, you're really out here harassing a black woman for no reason? An older man shook his head. This is some nonsense. A teenager near the curb muttered, Man, they don't even know who they're messing with. Thompson's eyes darted to the phones. His confidence wavered. Step back, he barked at the crowd, though his voice lacked the same bravado. The woman in the red hoodie didn't budge. Nah, we're not going anywhere. This is public property. Harris's face twisted in frustration. This is a police matter. Mind your business. The woman scoffed. Oh, it's my business when I see cops pulling some racist BS. YALLL are making a big mistake. Amara, still composed, crossed her arms. Yeah, you really are. Thompson turned back to her, his jaw tight. And why is that? Amara exhaled slowly, giving them one last chance. You don't know who you're dealing with, Harris sneered. Oh yeah? And who exactly are you? She tilted her head, a smirk creeping onto her lips. Let's just say your careers are about to take a very sudden turn. The woman in the red hoodie didn't hesitate. She tapped her phone screen, dialing City Hall. Yeah, I need to report 2 officers harassing someone important. Meanwhile, Harris and Thompson stood there, smug as ever, arms crossed like they had just put another arrogant civilian in check. Harris leaned closer to Amara, his voice dripping with condescension. You really thought you could talk your way out of this? Hate to break it to you, lady, but you're just another. Thompson's radio crackled to life. Dispatch to Officers Harris and Thompson. Immediately release the suspect. She's Chief Amara Jackson. Both officers froze. The smirks vanished, replaced by wide-eyed panic. Wait, what? Thompson's hand shot to his radio, like he'd misheard. You heard me. That's your new boss. A slow, unbearable silence fell over the street. The crowd, once full of murmurs and protest, suddenly burst into laughter. Damn, y'all done screwed up big time, someone hollered. Harris's face drained of color. His hands twitched at his sides. This some kind of joke? Amara cocked an eyebrow. Oh, it's real. Real embarrassing for you. Thompson looked like he wanted to disappear. Chief, shut up, Amara said coolly. You had your chance. Harris fumbled for the keys, his hands shaking as he unlocked the cuffs, but Amara didn't move, letting them sweat a little longer. Harris and Thompson stood like statues, their mouths slightly open, as if their brains had completely short-circuited. That cocky arrogance? Gone. Their entire demeanor shifted from we own this street to we just stepped in something nasty. Amara tilted her head, watching the realization hit them like a freight train. She flexed her wrists as Harris fumbled to remove the cuffs, his hands shaking. Still think I stole this car? She asked, her voice dripping with amusement. Thompson stammered. Chief, we didn't know. Oh, you knew something, she cut in. You knew I was black in a nice car. That was enough for you. Before either of them could spew out a half-baked excuse, a sleek black sedan screeched to a stop at the curb. The door flew open, and out stepped Chief of Staff David Patel, looking like he was about to explode. His eyes darted from Amara's slightly bruised wrists to the pale, stammering officers. "What the hell is going on here?" His voice was low, dangerous, the kind that made grown men break into a nervous sweat. The crowd, still recording, murmured in anticipation. Amara crossed her arms, a smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. "Well, David, seems like your officers thought I looked a little too suspicious behind the wheel of my own damned car." Harris swallowed hard. Thompson wiped his forehead. Patel took a slow breath, nostrils flaring. "You two, in my office, first thing tomorrow." The silence that followed was brutal. Patel's glare could have melted steel. "I'm waiting," he said, his voice like a slow-burning fuse. Harris opened his mouth, but all that came out was a stammered, "Sir, we thought—" "You thought what?" Patel snapped. "That a black woman in a nice car had to be a criminal? That a police chief, your boss, deserved to be thrown around like some thug off the street?" Thompson wiped his forehead again, his shirt visibly dampening with sweat. "We were just following protocol," he muttered weakly. "Protocol?" Amara scoffed, finally free of the cuffs. She adjusted her sleeves like she had all the time in the world. "Tell me, Officer Thompson, does protocol always involve made-up stolen vehicle reports and excessive force, or is that just the special treatment for people who look like me?" The officer's silence spoke volumes. Meanwhile, the crowd's murmurs grew louder. Phones were still recording, and within minutes, the video had already started circulating online: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It was everywhere. "Yo, this is wild," someone muttered. "They just tackled their own chief like she was some nobody." Another voice chimed in. "They ain't walking away from this, no way." Patel, his face red with fury, took a step closer to the disgraced officers. "Both of you, off duty, now. And don't even think about showing up tomorrow without legal representation." Amara smoothed out her sleeves, then locked eyes with Patel. "This department has a problem," she said, her voice cool but firm, "and I plan to fix it." The officers looked like their souls had just left their bodies. By morning, the footage had racked up millions of views. News outlets plastered Amara's face across their broadcasts, headlines screaming, "Newly appointed police chief harassed by her own officers," and "Racial profiling at its worst, caught on camera." Social media exploded. Hashtags like hashtag Justice for Amara and hashtag Reform the Force trended nationwide. Celebrities, politicians, and activists chimed in, demanding accountability. "This ain't just a bad apple situation," one viral tweet read. "This is the whole damn orchard rotting." The mayor, trying to do damage control, held a press conference before noon. Standing stiff behind a podium, she cleared her throat and declared, "We unequivocally condemn the disgraceful actions of Officers Harris and Thompson. Effective immediately, they are suspended without pay, pending a full investigation." It wasn't enough. The City Council, under immense public pressure, released a statement of their own. "This incident highlights systemic issues that must be addressed. We will be pushing for immediate police reform and increased accountability measures." Meanwhile, outside City Hall, protesters flooded the streets, their voices echoing through the city. Signs reading "Protect and Serve," or "Profile and Harass," and "Reform" now waved above the crowd. Amara, watching it all unfold, knew this wasn't just about her. This was bigger. She took a deep breath, rolled up her sleeves, and got to work. The press conference was packed: reporters, activists, local officials, and everyday citizens who had seen the viral footage. Cameras flashed as Amara stepped up to the podium, her expression calm but resolute. She scanned the crowd, then spoke, her voice steady. "Let's get one thing straight. If this can happen to me, the chief of police, it happens every day to people who don't have a badge or a title to protect them. And that's exactly why we're here today." The room was silent, hanging on to her every word. Amara continued, "This isn't about a single incident or two officers. It's about a culture of policing that allows bias, aggression, and unchecked power to go unchallenged. That ends now." She then outlined a sweeping initiative aimed at tackling racial profiling and reforming law enforcement practices: mandatory de-escalation training, increased community oversight, a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination within the force. "We're not just throwing words at the problem," she said. "We're changing the rules of the game." A murmur spread through the crowd. Approval, surprise, maybe even hope. Community leaders, activists, and local politicians stood behind her, showing their support. One of them, Reverend Ellis, stepped up next to her and nodded. "This is the kind of leadership we've been waiting for," he said. "Now it's on all of us to make sure these changes stick." The conference ended, but the movement was just beginning. The people weren't just watching anymore. They were ready to act. The investigation didn't take long. There was no way to justify what happened: the body cam footage, the bystander videos, the radio call confirming Amara's identity. It was all undeniable. Harris and Thompson had abused their authority, and now they were paying the price. A week later, the police department held a press conference. The chief of staff stood at the podium, his expression grim. "Officers Harris and Thompson have been found guilty of misconduct and have been officially terminated from the force," he announced. "Their actions do not reflect the values of this department, and we are committed to ensuring accountability." The city's leadership didn't stop there. They rolled out a series of reforms: mandatory anti-bias training, stricter consequences for racial profiling, and a new civilian oversight board with real power. It wasn't just talk, changes were happening. Meanwhile, Amara's reputation skyrocketed. People saw her not just as a chief of police, but as a leader willing to stand up against injustice, even within her own ranks. Community members, activists, and even officers who believed in real change stood behind her. One evening, as Amara walked into a town hall meeting, she was met with applause. A woman approached her, holding back tears. "My son was profiled by the police last year," she said. "Nobody listened. But because of you, things are finally changing." Amara nodded, gripping the woman's hand. "We're just getting started." The changes didn't happen overnight, but they happened. Amara wasted no time in reshaping the department from the inside out. She held town halls, listening to the community's concerns, making it clear that transparency wasn't optional, it was mandatory. Under her leadership, the department introduced a zero-tolerance policy for misconduct. Officers were required to undergo rigorous anti-bias and de-escalation training, and every stop, every arrest, was scrutinized. The culture of protecting your own within the force began to crumble, replaced by something new: accountability. Some officers resisted the shift, grumbling that things were going too far, but Amara shut that down fast. "If you can't do this job with integrity, you don't deserve the badge," she told them. Slowly, trust between the police and the people began to mend. Instead of fear and hostility, there were conversations, partnerships, and even moments of understanding. Community leaders who had once refused to work with the police now sat at the same table as Amara, helping shape policies that actually protected the people they served. The incident that started it all, her wrongful stop, became a symbol of change. It wasn't just another viral moment. It was proof that real leadership wasn't about power or intimidation. It was about justice. And Amara was just getting started.